Here we are again. Fog vid is back. Fog is everywhere, coming out of the San Bernardino Mountains, just in the nick of time as the new LA riots are upon us now. So now the migrants are marching all up and down Los Angeles, wreaking havoc, led by the communists. So now we are in the perfect foggy storm. Now in trade wars with Canada and Mexico and China. As the evidence continues to burn, the noise and confusion begins to grow. As we are officially a world at war. Burning down the house as the American trade wars begin to burn. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real Deal Media's #1 late night show, World at War. I am your cruise director here tonight, Dean Ryan, as we take a journey into the midst of the trade wars, as that's the entire talk of the world, as the normal practice and standards and protocol of looting the United States has now been checked. Yes, Donald Trump has been on a tear in his first 2 weeks here. I can't even keep my head on straight like anybody else who's watching the world change right before us. In this case, the North American countries, yes, are beginning to really show some teeth here tonight. We're going to be touching upon just that, plus the Panama Canal and all the latest updates. There's just so much change and territory changes for that. Then we're going to venture into real deal politics and see how that's going to be affecting the trade tariffs, that is. You right there at home, as the Super Bowl is upon us, and Mr. Chuck Schumer has some advice for all of us. We'll see what he has to say and then tell him to stuff it and put his lip over his head and swallow. But other cuts, too. We're going to see what Doge is cutting, major cuts, just billions and, dare I say, trillions of dollars being wasted right before our eyes and while we sleep as well. And plus, a New Jersey governor is saying, bring it to ICE. Just what I wanted. Yes, Christmas comes early. We'll investigate that. And some huge real deal international news stemming from Australia to UK to Russia and back to Canada in a whopper of a story to end on for Real Deal Showbiz, as Ellen is not making nice or friends, for that fact, over there in England, and we'll see exactly why that is, plus a whole lot more right here at World at War. Let's get started as we are broadcasting. Well, we are broadcasting on Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook, and we're going to be broadcasting just now some Real Deal headlines from all over the world and in your neck of the woods. Well, let's get started. Right off the bat is now trade wars has begun. Donald Trump is a man of the art of the deal, as he wrote it, as he formulated it. Now he's practicing it and doing things in this Trump 2.0 administration that he was unable to fulfill the first time in the first go around. But this is big, and this just happened in the past 24 hours. It's on, and Trump's here to let Trudeau and the bimbo from Mexico knows who's boss.
Canada. You called up the California tariffs in Canada. There was a rider in the order. Are you planning to increase the tariffs against Canada?
Well, it could happen. If they do anything, we will. Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them to go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there. But if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want. Mexico, we've had very good talks with them. And this is retaliatory. This is retaliatory to a certain extent. Millions of people flowed into our country through Mexico and Canada, and we're not going to allow that. And by the way, we have among the lowest numbers we've ever had of people crossing our border, the lowest numbers since my administration.
Mr. President, which country will be next on the tariffs? Would you consider taxing the UK, for example?
Well, we're going to see what happens. It'll happen, but we're going to, we'll see how things work out. It might happen with them, but it will definitely happen with the European Union, I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us. And, you know, we have over a $300 billion deficit. They don't take our cars, they don't take our farm products, they take almost nothing. And we take everything from them, millions of cars, tremendous amounts of food and farm products. So the UK is way out of line, and we'll see the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one, I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union it's an atrocity, what they've done. And we're going to change it. It's been unfair. That's why we owe $36 trillion. We have deficits with everybody. We help everybody. We've been helping everybody for years. And to be honest, I don't think they appreciate it. So we're going to change that. We're going to change it fast. We're going to make America great again. We have to focus on our country. We have tremendous potential if properly used, and we have to focus on our country. Tremendous deficits with China, tremendous deficits with the European Union, tremendous deficits with Mexico and Canada. And why? What's the purpose of that? Why would we have deficits? And yet you look at, if you look at pharmaceuticals and drugs, if you look at various products, it's much cheaper in other countries. We're not going to allow that much longer. We're not going to take it.
No, we're not going to take it. No, we're not. And speaking of the EU, you want to talk about some of the most hostile rules and regulations placed on the American people and our goods and services. Well, ask the EU, as they have singularly just carved the entire European continent filled with rules and regulations, and they want to push and continue to push the same on us. Well, Trump is not going to take it anymore. Well, neither is apparently Justin Trudeau, who is not feeling the Trump factor like some and maybe many Canadians are. Well, now Trudeau is fighting back, and we didn't know he could fight back. So this is kind of breaking news. Well, let's hear from the limp-wristed, outgoing prime minister in the whore of Havana himself, as he wants to play ball.
I want to speak directly to Americans, our closest friends and neighbors. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery store and gas at the pump. If President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us. I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
Oh, what a tough talker. Well, since this, or I should say, since that press conference aired, I do have some updated news for you. Well, Trump must have gotten to Trudeau, which is not that hard. Well, this is what Trudeau just posted moments ago. Quote, I just had a call with President Trump. Canada's implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, $1.3 billion that is, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, personnel, enhanced coordination, American partners. So nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working to protect the border. Now, in addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar, which is news to us. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canadian-U.S. joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, money laundering. I also have signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime, fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $200 million. Proposed tariffs will be paused for 30 days while we work together. If he's going after organized crime and cartels, isn't he going after himself? Just a little thought, a little idea. But wait, there's more now. The Mexican president, Ms. Baum, well, here's what she has to say. President of Mexico says she will send 10,000 troops to the border to stop the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. And both she and President Trump have agreed to pause implementing tariffs for 1 month. Wow. So, well, what about Panama? Well, now, Panama is a little different because this one is the Chinese now, who also have tariffs that still will be implemented. No word on any trajectory changes on that front. But now Marco Rubio was sent to Panama, who you must remember, Panama is the launch pad of all the migrants that invaded the United States, were either flown to Panama, but at the very least, were getting free passageway as the PLA, the DHS, and some of Ben Shapiro's people, too, have been nothing but tour guides to the invasion and the invaders of the United States. Well, this one's a little different because now Trump's hardline stance, well, apparently it paid off, as now Panama backs away from China's Belt and Road deal. And this is huge. Ladies and gentlemen, this is magnificently huge. This was the deal that blew off the Red Rail System deal with Israel and China, and that's why the powers that be, the two ends over the United States. Well, now Panama has ended a key development deal with China, reversing its stance on the Belt and Road Initiative after pressure from the United States. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio, aka Little Marco, and President Trump warned the Chinese influence over the Panama Canal threatened U.S. national security. Oh, you better believe it does. You better believe it does. Also, President Mulino over there in Panama emphasized Panama's sovereignty over the canal, but will review agreements with Chinese businesses, including port operations. Panama will also expand a memorandum with the United States of Homeland Security to manage migration from the Darien Gap. And finally, another key point in development is the decision marks a shift towards closer U.S.-Panama relations, signals a broader trend in Latin America to align with U.S. interests against Chinese. This is huge, and I cannot stress that enough. It's so huge, we almost have to hear the president of Panama actually say it himself. Let's see how this all began.
I don't think troops will be necessary in Panama. What Panama has done is terrible financial security for this part of the world. And, 70% of the signage on the Panama Canal was written in Chinese. That's not right. So it wasn't meant for China. It should have never been made. The deal was a ridiculous deal. We lost 38,000 people building the Panama Canal, one of the great wonders of the world. 38. It was the most expensive project ever built by this country, if you take it forward. The most expensive project ever built. We lost 38,000. And what happens? China owns it all of a sudden? It's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. We have national security concerns, and they wouldn't let it happen either. Secretary of State Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're talking about the Panama Canal. What they've done is terrible. They violated the agreement. They're not allowed to violate the agreement. China's running the Panama Canal. That was not given to China. That was given to Panama foolishly. But they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it back, or something very powerful is going to happen.
Una cosa importante, que es una decisión que adopté y se la comuniqué. El memorándum de entendimiento del año 2017 sobre la ruta de la seda de Belt and Road Initiative no será renovado por mi gobierno.
Panama's President Jose Molino has announced China's Belt and Road Initiative will not be renewed by his government.
Vamos a estudiar la posibilidad de si se puede terminar antes o no, pero creo que le toca en 1 o 2 años la renovación, porque es cada 3. Así que esa iniciativa que se firmó, cuando se firmó, en el tiempo que se firmó, no será renovada por mi gobierno.
Started in China by 2013, the Belt and Road Initiative saw Beijing funding infrastructure projects in various countries. Panama joined China's initiative in 2017 under a previous government. Many have welcomed the Panamanian president's decision to end the partnership with China. United States Secretary Marco Rubio called President Molini to reduce Chinese influence over the Panama Canal or face potential retaliation from the Trump administration. Mr. Rubio met with Panama's president and foreign minister to discuss the Panama Canal. Secretary Marco says, I met with Panamanian President Molino and Foreign Minister to clear up the United States cannot and will not allow Chinese Communist Party to continue with its effective growing control over the canal. We also discussed efforts to stop fentanyl.
Esta visita abre un camino para construir una nueva etapa de relaciones. Así lo veo yo, así lo sentí de parte del secretario Marco Rubio. Y a la vez tratar, en la medida de lo posible, de que se incrementen las inversiones de los Estados Unidos en Panamá. Le expliqué una serie de proyectos de infraestructura que el gobierno tiene en carpeta, en cartera, con el ánimo de que las conozcan y en su momento que se hagan las licitaciones, que comenzarán muy pronto, pues se pueda entrar.
That is something, and yes, sorry, I was on mute, but yeah, you heard it there himself from the president's mouth. The Panama Canal is coming back into the grips of the United States, something we haven't seen since the late 70s. Really, how about that? Let's continue now, as there's major protests happening in Los Angeles, and don't we know it? Who would have saw this coming? I should also state this is also taking place over there in Seattle, up there in Seattle, Washington, as well, as now migrant protests hit LA in the wake of terrible fires the state has ever seen in its history now. Well, police have now entered the riot gear motions as they move in on protesters in downtown Los Angeles after a day-long demonstration against Trump's immigration policies and mass deportations. Yes, it's true. It's going to be like LA riots all over again, some have said. Well, let me tell you more here, as now police who are in riot gear, officers over there at the LAPD, assisted by the CHP, were able to clear the freeway as protesters took downtown surface streets, but then quickly got back on the majority of the major roads, I should say, over there in downtown LA. Many protesters carrying signs, some of which were speaking out against Trump's policies. For instance, quote, the real criminal in the White House was one of them. Jesus said, love thy neighbor, not deport them. But now the LAPD have ordered multiple street closures in the area, including Spring Street between Temple and First Streets. In a recent post on X, LAPD called the demonstration, quote, non-permitted. As soon as he was able to say that, a crowd of protesters began gathering around the city hall around 6 p.m., began announcing demonstrations to be unlawful, ordering people to disperse, the cops did, even as some groups, again, breached the 101 freeway, bringing traffic to a sweltering halt like never seen before. Yes, and there is Seattle for that one. Don't we know it? And those are some headlines that are rocking the news world. Isn't that the case? Let's now head to Real Deal Politics, shall we? Real Deal Politics. Well, there's a lot of people who have a thing or two to say about the tariffs, about the new trade wars. Well, consider this woman to be one of them, excuse me, who doesn't like that, but also doesn't like the purge now happening over there at the senior officials at the FBI. And this is sweet music to my ears, I must say. But let me tell you just a bit more about this now, as acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll on Friday refused a Justice Department order that he assist in the firing of agents involved in the January 6 riot cases, pushing back so forcefully that some FBI officials feared he would be dismissed. Multiple current and former FBI officials recently just told NBC News, who's definitely a partner of the FBI, while the Justice Department ultimately did not dismiss Driscoll, the head of the Bureau's Newark field office, who is temporarily serving as its acting director. Now, the Senate is currently considering whether Kash Patel, President Trump's pick for FBI director, should be confirmed, a longtime critic of the Bureau's investigations of Trump and the J6ers. But Patel promised senators at his confirmation hearing that no FBI officials would be retaliated against, saying, quote, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. Yes, they will. Just 24 hours later, Driscoll notified FBI workforce that he had been ordered to remove 8 senior FBI executives by sundown. The acting deputy attorney general and Trump's former personal defense lawyer. Driscoll also said he had been told to turn over the names of every FBI employee involved in investigating the J6 so-called rioters. Well, Driscoll said that 8 executives had been forced out, but did not say whether he would turn over the broader list of J6-related FBI investigators, a list that he noted encompasses thousands of FBI employees, including him. Well, a former member of the FBI's elite hostage rescue team, Driscoll, promised agents that he would follow the law by existing FBI policies, saying, quote, as we've said, since the moment we agreed to take on these roles, we are going to follow the law, follow FBI policy, and do what's in best interest of the workforce and the American people. Always. Well, how sweet and touching. I'm sure this is ruffling a lot of feathers over there, but let's see how that turned out, as one of the spokespersons for the FBI is now speaking, but also speaking with a bit more piss and vinegar, just the way we like our deep state salad. Here it is.
That's right. Where the latest is that a senior bureau and pushed back pretty forcefully to the point where people thought he might be dismissed. The other thing is that we're hearing from legal experts who say some of these firings could be illegal, though the Trump White House is saying that really the president can fire anyone in the executive branch. And we should remind people what we're talking about. At least 8 senior executives, the most senior executives at the FBI, have been let go and forced out by the Trump administration. We also know multiple heads.
Okay, she can shut up. We already know. So let's tell Blabbermouth to take a break there. Now, speaking of Blabbermouth, let's get to another one. Is now Chuck Schumer lashes out at Trump's tariffs in the most glorious way possible. Must say, it is pathetic, but that's who Chuck Schumer is. And have you seen his wife? Well, now Senate minority leader amid the tariff negotiations, claiming trade disputes could drive up a Super Bowl party cost. God forbid. On a dumb, stupid stunt, as you're going to see here in a second, you'll see the failed prop comedy routine, like we've seen with Carrot Top, completely fall flat on its Zionist Democrat know-nothing face, as the New York senator is going to try to make a show like he's some kind of magician, that is. Well, let's see how he does it, and we'll judge upon his talent or lack thereof. Chuck Schumer, tell us what's wrong with the tariff.
It's going to affect beer. Okay. It's going to affect your guac, because what is guacamole made of? Avocados, both from Mexico. Let's just take Super Bowl Sunday.
We know he doesn't even do his own grocery shopping. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Let's continue now, because there's more cuts. Just what we need is now the USDA removes and cuts the woke rules. God, I love this story too. Love this story. The USDA is now told to remove climate change from its websites and everything woke. But don't fall asleep now, as the United States Department of Agriculture has now been ordered to take down website pages devoted to so-called climate change. Yes, according to an internal email obtained by the Politico, website managers were directed to, quote, identify and archive the landing pages focused on climate change and, quote, identify all web content related to climate change and document it in a spreadsheet for the USDA's Office of Communications to review. Well, it set a Friday deadline and for handing over the titles, links, and, quote, your recommendation of how the content should be handled. As of Friday deadline, some landing pages remained active, including the USDA Climate Hubs. The new Trump administration has also put funds for clean energy agriculture plans on hold, including billions of dollars tied to the Inflation Reduction Act and also the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Perhaps most notable is that Trump withdrew from the U.S. again from the Paris Climate Accords for the second time. Just shows you how many times, second time's a charm and three times a lady. Well, speaking of Doge, is now another cut, but this time is now the cuts come from the new press secretary of the White House, Caitlin, as she tells us what Elon Musk is now finding in the dustbins of expenditures. Tell us what the deal is, Caitlin.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap. And I know the American people don't either. And that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
Thank you, Caroline, Caitlin. We just love it. Yeah, USDA and USAID, for that fact, which has always been a CIA storefront. No more. So much waste, so much pork barrel spending, as they call it in the DC Beltway. Speaking of which, let's continue to find these pigs, because some of them need a damn good whacking, don't you think? Well, one of those could be the IRS. Well, in this next piece, IRS corruption goes so many levels. But this one, I think, takes the cake. At a time when the income tax is now being questioned seriously on the executive level, well, we're also questioning the rite of passage some of these IRS agents hold, as now a new scandal is brewing, as corruption seems to be the silent C in IRS. Well, it's now brewing its ugly taxation kind of ahead here. In this next video, you're going to hear about what the IRS are doing to you out there without your knowledge, and it's pretty disgusting and a violation of privacy.
Learned is that the IRS, in fact, has been using AI to access bank accounts of American citizens without any kind of a search warrant or even without any specific claim that they have committed a crime. So this was something that was discovered by an undercover journalist, and what they found is that the IRS has claimed that they have access to every single person's bank account. This person also indicated that they've been working with the Department of Justice and that they have absolutely no problem whatsoever going after the little guy to make sure that they are paying their taxes. This is such a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment that Jim Jordan and I sent a letter to the IRS demanding that they provide additional information about what they are doing with AI and what they are doing to protect the civil rights of American citizens. What we have learned is that the IRS, in fact, has...
Thank you. That's exactly what we learn. The corruption, they're using AI to spy on you, but that's what we know of. We don't know what else they do. Finally, here in Real Deal Politics, speaking of just lousy people who just live in this country, well, that brings us to New Jersey governor who says, bring it to ICE. Bring it to ICE. That's absolutely correct. New Jersey governor is now sheltering illegal aliens at his home and dares Trump administration to, quote, come and get her. Yes, the sex-slaved master himself is now hiding so-called migrants, as now New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy just revealed an illegal alien is currently living in his family's residence and defied federal authorities to do something about it. God, I love when governors do this. Well, now Governor Murphy has made these brazen admissions during a discussion over there at Blue Wave, New Jersey, that was a live streamed via state channels on Saturday over the weekend. Well, he said, quote, I don't want to get into too much detail, although I already did, but there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the, let's have her live in our house above our garage, Murphy stated. Good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her. It's so touching. Well, Governor Murphy appears to have openly admitted to breaking federal immigration law, which could make him a target of prosecution, God, I hope, if the Trump administration takes legal action against authorities in sanctuary jurisdictions, as officials repeatedly have vowed to do. Yeah, like, it's no one's business except for the taxpayer. These people, they're going to get their derrieres handed to them in a parcel package, don't you think, at this point? Anyways, we have a quick break we got to take. When we get back, we got some Real Deal International you need to know about, especially if you're in Australia, Canada, or more. We'll find out as you're watching the number. Okay, we are back. We are back. And yes, I'm still Dean Ryan, who's cruising with you to midnight and slightly beyond. We have a long way to go and a very short time to get there. But tonight is brought to you by Real Deal Go. Thank you to everyone who's donated to the cause to keep this movement going. Go to givesendgo.com/Real Deal Go. Thank you in advance. Also, the Night Owls, the members who make this really, really go. Become a Night Owl, become a visionary debonair. Go to realdealmedia.tv/membership. Please do. And once you're there, don't forget, beat the cancers of life. Get some ivermectin. Go to www.twc.health/Dean Ryan. When you get there, make sure to use promo code Dean Ryan. Very original. I know. Anyways, we're going to continue. Okay, let's get to some Real Deal International as it's heating up. Yeah, and it's at boiling temperature. It sure is. Let's get to it, shall we? Real Deal International. Yeah, we are back here as now we have some incredible stories. First one stemming out of Australia now, as Aussie spy agency has now collected, they're saying, information on China. Oh, yeah. Yes, there's a surprise and a shocking one at that behind every Australian outback. Yes, it is. Now, David Asher, a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute and lead investigator of the State Department's COVID-19 origins investigating President Trump's first term, appeared recently collected signals intelligence concerning the origins of intercepted voice, text, and other communications of the Chinese. Australian spy agencies conducted much of this in Asia, which the CIA later obtained. Here's a quote: "I never thought the intel picture based on human intelligence, which is what the CIA has, but it was recently cleared based on the reactions of senior Chinese leaders that something terrible had gone wrong inside Wuhan. Specifically inside the Wuhan Institute of Urology and perhaps also the Wuhan University and the CDC. They shared certain programs together," Mr. Asher said. He concluded by saying, "I think there will be much more coming out," with CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who you probably know about, the new CIA director from the Trump administration. Let me tell you, he's very committed to finding what these communications are, as China is all up and down Australia like no one's business. They become the pimp of Australians for how many years now? How many years? Don't we know it? Moving on here. Well, that brings us to UK targeting so-called right-wing extremists or just anyone who's slightly right of Mao Zedong, who also goes by Steimer, the prime minister that is over there. Well, let me tell you about this. This is quite enduring, just like the Chinese are. As the UK Home Office report now comes out, it dismisses online criticism of the two-tier policing as right-wing extremist narrative is coming into question as hocus pocus to begin with. That's absolutely correct. Is now what has become known as the two-tier policing over there in the United Kingdom. The alleged practice of dealing more harshly with one set of protesters than the others based on their politics has now been dismissed in Home Office reports as a right-wing extremist narrative. It was just recently leaked, like many other things in England, by the Policy Exchange think tank. The UK press is now having the report on it. Unsurprisingly, those that various politicians, activists, and media have for years been saying are disfavored by the authorities in terms of how they protest and how they're handled, well, have simply been branded as extreme right-wing. And Trudeau would know a lot about this now. The two-tier policing suggestion, deliberate two sets of rules for one group of people publicly expressing their dissatisfaction. Well, it debuted during the BLM protests, if you recall, back in the days of the early COVID-19 era, Coronapalooza, when UK's law enforcement was slammed for, quote, so it's now being questioned as Steimer is now being called into question of what kind of communism are you placing upon the people of the UK? Very good. Exactly. What kind of communism is it? So more on that as it develops, as people are rejecting communism little by little over there in England. Speaking of rejects, well, that brings us to Zelensky. Sade on because I love it. Well, now Russia believes that NATO is going to dump Zelensky, the two-tier whore of Europe, also known as the drag queen of Europe. Zelensky, who's never seen a charitable donation from American taxpayers he didn't like. Well, just recently, Monday, Russian Foreign Intelligence Service claimed that NATO is now trying to remove Ukrainian ruler Vladimir Zelensky from power due to him being an obstacle to peace negotiations. We told you this a long time ago now, that the who's who of the top military brass were trying to find ways to wrap this guy up, arrest him, and hand him over to Putin, as Zelensky, in the interim, has been trying to find asylum in multiple countries. It's been reported and said to have been as close as 9, if not more, countries have rejected that effort, as they should, because that's what happens, rejects. But now Russian agency suggested that the presidency of Donald Trump is a key factor, as continued U.S. financial support for the Ukraine was in now, not a guarantee, that is. Trump administration has already halted Ukraine aid. Zelensky is now claiming that he didn't get all of his money. He is bitching all the way to the grave. And let me open the door for you, and we'll have someone dig that grave as well. Speaking of which, Canadians now boo the national anthem. You probably heard about this. This is a sign of the times. Well, you know, in the wake of Canada being rumored in a kind of sarcastic way of becoming the 51st state, well, Trudeau is playing up on that. But I think it really makes Canadians become a bit more patriotic when they find out their home could be for sale, or it was for sale and the Chinese were your buyers. Well, now Canadian hockey fans booed the U.S. national anthem during an NHL game over there in Ottawa just recently over the weekend. The spectators' expression of displeasure with their southern neighbor comes after the administration of the United States President Donald Trump imposed new trade tariffs over there in Canada. The incident took place just recently at the Canadian Tire Center during a hockey game, and the Star Spangled Band came on, and the following, you got to see this.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the pear.
That's enough. I think we get we all get the point there. But you know, they should be booing the people running the Canadian government. They should be booing Trudeau, who's literally ruined the country. And it's going to be a huge build back better, isn't it? Unbelievable. That leads us to some real issues. Real deal showbiz. Yes, let's get to it now, as someone's making not enemies, but frenemies, but just really angry neighbors. Yeah, I'm talking about Ellen, who's now being told to go home and shove it. That's right, shove it. Let me tell you about this. Ellen, who has fled the United States. Yes, she has. She's now fled the United States to go where? To England, out of all. Yeah. What a great neighbor now, as Ellen DeGeneres has now clashed with Cotswold neighbors over an extension breach of $18 million in a very quaint village. They're telling her, take a hike, Ellen. Well, Ellen's been a creep for a long time, and I'll explain why and more later. But now the former talk show host, 67, has now packed up and moved and fled to England, as I previously stated, with her fake girlfriend, fake lesbian, Portia de Rossi, over there. As far back as November of last year, the duo purchased a stunning farmhouse in the hoity-toity area for an eye-popping $18 million, some $3 million over the asking price. But, I say Ellen has been a freak on not so much a leash for the longest time. In fact, we started covering just how freaky she was all the way back in 2020, you might recall. And in fact, if you don't, well, here it is.
Real Deal reports who and what is Ellen DeGeneres. Based on recent Hollywood revelation, the veil of these once beloved celebrities has faded into irrelevance like the narrative of the pandemic. And a weird diagram in the background of this photograph is frowned upon with anger and lunacy and not so much fear. We have more about Ellen and the salami, oddly enough. Dean, where do we begin?
Well, I guess we could begin. When I was at Subway the other day, I could have swore my salami sandwich tasted like Ellen because it didn't taste. So that's where it starts and ends.
Yeah, you can't make this up. Ellen DeGeneres, salami, one of companies' quest to make meat from celebrity tissue samples as they were started little by little releasing just how freaky they are in the Hollywood industrial complex. But let's hope England can extradite. They're just bad hombres over there. And definitely Mr. Ellen DeGeneres, one of them, which now brings us to... Oh, man. Well, here's something we haven't done in quite some time. Yeah, since last week. Here's some interesting news. As now no more trans, that is, as new Trump administration limits categories for gay sexual preference ID as lesbians, gay, or bisexual, as whole gender fluid movement goes up in flames. Yes, it is across the board. And don't we know it, as whichever you want, whoever you feel like, is not necessarily following the science. Yes, gender fluidity movement is now rejecting the idea of frequent gender changes based on personal whims or desires. Increased common sense legislation, the implementation of common sense laws, principles often associated with the Trump era has curtailed the influence of gender fluidity and woke ideologies in public spaces. Now, the consumer resistance has been growing over the years, and it's just a reflection of the times now, is now the growing resistance among consumers, against the content with woke ideology that doesn't align with their values, particularly leftist ideologies, video games, and more. Well, their days have finally come, as the righteous Americans who were always were taking the country back one step at a time. Yes, we are, and don't we know it? I love to hear stories like that. Thank you, Natural News, for that, which now brings us to... final thoughts. To my woke ideology. I want my woke ideology. Feed it to me. Final thoughts. Final thoughts here for the American trade wars. It is such a beautiful thing to see. I loved when Trudeau threatened America on us. I guess that means I can't drink Canadian dry ginger ale anymore. Or Mexico. Oh no, we're not going to have avocado. Please don't hurt us. Besides all of these just kind of elementary little tidbits, the main idea is America has been looted. America has been hoarded out, shielded against, infiltrated, and disrespected for decades. Now's the time to pay the piper. And I'll just leave on this. Busy hands are happy hands. Give it to us or we'll take it ourselves. That's how it is. We are the true Americans, and we are revitalizing the country, the continent, and dare I say, the world. So on that note, we're going to leave it there. I will be back tomorrow night. We'll be back with an incredible segments with Jim Fetzer. But in the meanwhile, I want to thank you, all of you, for sharing a bit of your night here tonight. For all of us here at Real Deal Media, I'm Dean Ryan. Always remember to tell you, stay tuned and please stay awake.
pretty strong now. I think I'm falling, holding on to what I think is safe. Seems I found the road to nowhere, and I'm trying to escape. Hanging back when I heard thunder, but I'm down to one last breath. And with it, let me say, hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet, it's so far down. I'm looking down, now that it's over, reflecting on all of my mistakes. I thought I found the road somewhere in this place. I cried out, heaven save me, I'm down to one last breath. And with it, let me say, open now, I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. Hold me now, I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. I'm so far down. Sad eyes follow me, but I still believe there's something left for me. Hold me now, I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking hold me now, I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet.